Okay, 3,662 properties for Fife homeowners are falling foul of estate agents overvaluing in the last 5 years. What's that all about? QVT! I was just talking to someone in St Andrews about this, literally about 1.5 hours ago, Eric. And I said, "Do you realise, Eric, there's 130 properties available for sale in St Andrews, according to Rightmove at this point in time?" And I says, "How many properties do you think actually get sold?" And he said, "Probably about 20 a month." I says, "Well, that tells me there's about 7 months worth of stock on the market in St Andrews for sale." And he went, "How's that?" And I actually said to him, and he actually got it before me. He said, "Is that because of all the new house builds?" Got it in one.
Yeah.
Flooding the market. Flooding the market, making it easy access to get, to get into that market, and actually easy access. Why would you, if you're getting your stamp duty paid for you, if you're getting a low deposit as well, why would you go for a resale? It'll cost you an arm and a leg and maybe about 30,000, 40,000 pounds in stamp duty. That's the issue here. So the new house builds are welcomed because obviously we need housing in areas.
Yeah.
But for some existing house sellers, they're not that welcome at all. But the key is, as well, is the overvaluing thing. I actually spoke to him about it, and I says, "Look, I know your valuation is at your home reports at that, but I think we should just go slightly under it now. We're in a different market than we are 2 years ago. Boom period where people were paying 50, 60,000 more. That's kind of caught up with itself, hasn't it, Perrie?"
100% that it has caught up in itself, and we've seen a big shift in that in the last 2 years, haven't we? I think, we keep mentioning post-COVID, but actually that year and a half where it went a little bit mad with property, certainly we've seen that settlement of it, haven't we? And we've seen increased property coming to the market, as you say, Jim, because all areas, not just St Andrews, have got new builds happening in them, which, as you say, is welcome. But it does have that effect where more properties come into market. I mean, I looked at Zoopla earlier on today, and there's like just short of 1,050 properties on the market. Back then, you were lucky if it was 400 to 500. So, you've got more than double available at this time.
Yeah. And overvaluing kind of tends to be a mechanism. Some estate agents will use to get a client on. And you're like, and most people will actually say at this point in time, like I used to say, is like, how could you overvalue if you've got a home report? Well, let's talk about that. So if you've ever considered actually selling your Fife home, and you may have felt the temptation to list it actually at a higher price, hoping that for a bigger payday. After all, who wouldn't want to really maximize the return on their largest tax-free asset? Yep, it's your largest tax-free asset that you've got, probably your house. You don't get taxed on it. Wonder if that's going to change at the end of the month.
Oh, I know, watch the space.
with the budget, eh? You never know. Never say never. We're going to be in for a hard time. We're getting told it's going to be painful, and it's like, oh my God, what are you planning to crash the economy? Anyway, that's another state. That's another thing. However, this approach to has a downside that many homeowners in Fife, especially, and right across Scotland, and even some estate agents actually overlook the risks and costs associated with overpricing, overvaluing your property. I mean, recent data actually shows that homes priced too high take much longer to sell. Now, you're going to say no, Sherlock, at this point in time. If you could fill that blank in, no, Sherlock. It will take longer to sell. But in the boom market, nobody cared. They were just buying them anyway. And my cat could have sold a house at that point in time, but it's a different strategy now, and it's a different way forward in terms of selling in this type of housing market. And you're far less likely to complete the sale successfully if you overvalue as well. Because another property comes on and the person goes, I've not concluded missives yet. Could possibly move, could possibly change and buy that one instead. So let's dive into why the correct pricing is essential to ensure a smooth and actually, I would say, a profitable sale for your property in the Fife area. Overpricing a common pitfall to the Fife property market, Perrie?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in recent years, the Fife property market has seen a surge in home prices. We've all seen that and witnessed it. But I think what that's led to is fierce competition amongst some estate agents.
Yeah.
And what they're doing in that sense is, during the peak markets in 21, many Fife agents were achieving top prices for property, often receiving multiple offers. We experienced that ourselves, Jim, didn't we? And receiving those offers sometimes in a matter of days. In our case, with our marketing strategy, with our pre-portals, actually even before it hit the websites, we were getting offers. So it became the norm for a Fife home to sell quickly and for prices that exceeded all expectations, didn't it?
I scratched my head sometimes and thought, who has an extra £100,000 lying about to pay for a property? But often the reason that the 100,000 was there, because it wasn't, the original home report was based on historical information, which was technically out of date, and therefore it didn't reflect the real true valuation of the property in that market. What possibly it could have done, with the home reports not being getting done at the right level, it could have actually lost maybe £5,000–10,000 for the actual seller, because of that strategy wasn't approached properly. Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, that boom as well came with unintended consequences, didn't it? Fewer Fife homes now come onto the market today. We're seeing more coming now. Some agents became desperate to secure their listings, so they were competing in those times. So to win over potential sellers, many estate agents started overpricing properties, and we saw that quite frequently. Sometimes described as overvaluing, depends how you want to say it. But they were offering inflated appraisals on properties that gave homeowners unrealistic expectations. And certainly I came across that quite frequently, where maybe another agent had been out before you and you had all that evidence in front of you, as I did, and you did as well, Jim, in regards to where you had got your numbers from, and you were scratching your head thinking, where's this number come from? And there's no way you can kind of overcome that, because then the expectation was set for the seller, and that's the numbers fixated in their brain then, isn't it?
It was quite good in the past though, and it still is quite good now. And you do catch inexperienced estate agents out like that, because then you do present what we have as the comparables, which is what I have in the pack here. Basically other properties that have sold in the area, and what they sold for are similar to theirs, and key ones here that we've sold as well, and what we achieved for them, and that gives you clear, convincing evidence to say that, without a doubt, this is the true property value at this point in time, based on that information, because we're now in a stable market, and Fife house prices in the last year, according to the house price index, have only gone up about 2.3%. So it's no breathtaking amounts. The property prices are actually going up now. It's probably just inflationary every year.
I would agree. And when you look at the way that strategy was approached, whilst it might sound like a winning strategy to get more money for your home, it has caused significant distress and delays for many Fife homeowners. And we did experience that as well. And the impact of overvaluing longer sale times gives increased risk as well to their journey. We always say that people move for a reason, don't we? And the circumstances within their lives have changed, so they're motivated for that purpose. But when we see that longer sales time and that increased risk for them financially, if that's what their situation is, how do you see that impacts people just now?
But I think actually just now, the longer sales time, I think it's because maybe somebody's been in the market for quite a while, for example, and as a result of that, they've still got this in their mindset that this is the market it was before. They don't understand the current market situation. Now, I've been at pains to tell a lot of people where we are, where the current market is right now, and this is why we do all these shows quite regularly, and all the updates on the Sunday night as well, in order to give people the right idea and the right impression of where the market is. The market's stable. You can tell that because we've still got less properties available for sale now than we did have in 2019. When you look at that, because 2019 there was about 1,400 on the market in Fife at any one point in time. I mean, we're shy of 1,000, just over 1,000 just now, on that level of transactional numbers. But I think the difficulty is here. It's the affordability that's causing this problem. So while we've got a market and a perfect storm, it's kind of, we've got a two-tier market just now. You know, everything up to 300,000 still sells quite well. Everything beyond that starts to take a bit longer, and everything maybe 500,000 upwards. It's like you've probably got to then rethink your strategy and have a more accurate pricing strategy in order to realign to the right price to get the right person. Because the buyers are few and far between at that price point. So you're right, you know, over the longer sale times, the increased risk and all the rest of it, and the property priced too high, it doesn't attract that serious buyer overall.
So why do you think so many properties in Fife still are on the market after a long time? Does it go back to the things that we said? Does it often boil down to one thing? Is it overvaluing, or is it other things?
Well, yeah, you're more or less right, and right on there, Perry. It's too high. Serious buyers, instead it sits in the market for an extended period of time, leading to frustration for both the home buyer and the estate agent. Ultimately, gets withdrawn from the market and sold, and then they're convinced. Or what they do is they go, "Oh, I'm going to go to someone else," and you've been telling them for ages to realign their strategy and realign the price, but because they don't hear that, even though you keep saying it, they then go to someone else and they go, "Oh, well, I think you should realign it to this price." And they go, "Yeah, that's the right answer." Wait a minute, I've been telling you that for ages. It's like, so then you've spent all that time and effort with the current estate agent and then basically said, "I tell you what, I'm just going to write all that time and effort off, and I'm just going to believe the first person that comes along in the next estate agent and what they say," which is often the case. That's what happens. They go to the second agency. So let's look at these overvaluing statistics, for example, since 2019. So that's almost 5 years worth of data. Now, it's an average of 732 properties every single year actually are deemed to be overvalued. And if you divide that by the transactional numbers, it comes to probably about 11 to 13, 14% of the Fife stock. It's sold every single year. And so it's quite significant. So let's look at the Fife area. In 2019, 73.5% of the 3,904 properties that left Fife estate agents' books, missives and concluded, and actually the sale completed. The remaining 1,035, that's 26.5%, came off the market, unsold. But it possibly went to another one, or they ended up letting it. And in 2020, 87.7% of the 3,103 properties that left Fife estate agents' book missive concluded for sale remained 651. That's 21% came off the market. 2021, 87%, 12% actually remained unsold. 2022, 86%, and 13% remained unsold. 2023, 80%, and 19.5% remain unsold. 2024, 80% left Fife estate agents' books, of the stock it was available for sale, and 455 of that, 20% of the Fife homeowners, came off the market unsold. So that's your chances of selling your Fife home in graphical form is kind of like this. Chances to sell your Fife home. Yeah, from 2019 to 2024. You can see that right there. This is the percentage sold of the stock. It was actually available for sale in the whole year. So chances are quite high. It kind of dipped, but then when you look at the 2021, where the boom period was, your chances were really high. You can see that. See 2020, that's COVID. That's when it probably hit around about April 2020 was, yeah. So it dropped like a stone. Chances were really lower, and then suddenly the boom, and then it stayed that boom for quite a while. I think that's the Liz Truss budget there in 2022, October 2022. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's Liz Truss fanatical budget, and the famous budget. Everybody went, "Oh my God, you're going to tank the economy," and then all of a sudden she got boot. And then somebody else took over, and then we're back on track again. So we're in a stable market, so to speak. If that makes sense overall. The Fife home selling roulette, as you can see there, you can see that there, the number of homes missives concluded versus the withdrawn, unsold from the market. So you can see it's quite big. There's COVID. There it is there. See how it's sitting really close. at that point in time, and then it separates back up again, the boom period, and you've got peaks and troughs all the way through. Interestingly enough, the troughs are in, see that, March and May. See that, March and May here as well. That's quite interesting. March and May there as well. See that?
It is.
And January, March, May. Do you know why that is? Because there's a huge supply of properties coming out in the market, but there's less transaction numbers going through at that point in time. So it's the number of homes missives concluded. So that's why, because then you've got winter, and then that's when people tend to buy within the next couple of months. So therefore, the number of homes concluded and transacted into the January and March period are from the end of autumn in winter as well, and then concluding at that point in time. So there's less concluding. That's why it drops down, because there's a natural delay in the time to conclude from actually saying I'm going to buy it, which is typically usually about 6 months thereabouts. Yeah.
Typically. From start to finish, yeah.
So since 2019, Fife Homeowners, I would say personally for me, I think it's about, I think it really is about 6,000. I know we've got that number there, but I think it's really about 6,000 Fife homeowners who placed their Fife properties on the market, have actually sold every single year, but the number actually not sold every single year is around about 10% of that, which is about 700 overall. And over the 5-year period, that's about 3,600 overall of homes that were actually probably withdrawn because they were overvalued. I mean, the hard data of overvaluing, if there's evidence, isn't enough to convince you. Let's look at more data. What is that data, Perrie?
So I think what you've got to do is now you've got to consider, do you reduce your asking price after 3 or 4 months to make your house more realistically priced? That's certainly an option, of course. Yet because homes that sit on the market for too long often develop a negative reputation, don't they? And we see that quite often. Potential buyers start to wonder why the property hasn't sold yet, and they assume that there's something wrong with the house.
Something's wrong with it, isn't it?
They do all the time.
There's nothing wrong with it. And do you know why? I think it's just an inherent culture that we begin to think that. But if you've got a good estate agent understands, they can pitch your property to the buyer when they phone and say it's been on the market for 4 months, because the buyer's probably just started their journey.
Yeah.
So the property technically, because the difficult is Rightmove and Zoopla now declare this, and they'll let you see these dates, and that to me is a fault in their system. They shouldn't be doing that, because it's not how long the property's been on the market, it's how long the buyer's been in the market.
Yeah.
Because there's 20 people every single day it makes a decision to sell a property in Fife. That's the statistics every single time. There's 17 people every single day go on to make a decision to buy a property in Fife. So that to that person, that property that's maybe been sitting on the market for 6 months is just new to them. So if you've got a weak estate agent, often they'll just fall about and crash when it comes to that. Whereas if the buyer is out there for the first time, a strong estate agent in negotiation will go, no, this is the first time you're seeing this. We could easily take this off and put this back on. And you would have thought it was new for the first time. So the very fact that it's been on the market for a while, to us, would suggest that there's no need to actually reduce. However, if it's glaringly obvious in the statistics and the numbers and the click-throughs and everything that your estate agent's telling you, then you definitely have to consider. Most people will understand the word reduce the price, but I always think of it as realign the price.
Yeah.
Now, why do we realign that price then, Perrie? What is realignment to someone?
Realignment, it really is an opportunity then to attract a new audience. So, the brackets on Rightmove work in particular ways. So say you have a property at 400,000, but someone's putting in the search engine, it works in bands of 25,000 in Rightmove, for instance. So if someone's thinking, well, I can spend 400, but I'm only going to look to 375 because I know I'm going to need to pay more than 375.
Yeah.
But if I look at 400, I can't pay more than 4. So someone looking at 375 is expected to pay 380, 390, 400. So they might just be putting in 375. The property that's potentially not selling could be listed at 400. That person's never going to see that house.
Yeah, it could be listed at 380 and they'll still never see it. It could be listed at 375, 500. And they'll
still
still
won't
never
see
see it because it's the old thing about the pricing strategies from some estate agents, not us, tend to reflect an old, antiquated, outdated model. It was pre-internet.
Mhm.
The
Exactly.
99p Woolies mentality, I would say. It's like, it's not a pound, it's 99 pence. Well, it's a
Yeah.
pound. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. And it's that mentality. It's like, so do you really think somebody that's got a budget of when you look at it that way and your people think like that, you then have to ask yourself, do you really think somebody that's got a budget of 400,000 is looking at something for 399,999?
No.
No. And they're no bothered whether it's 39, whether it's 390, whether it's whatever it is, they're going to pay 400,000. Somebody's looking for a 400,000 for property. Isn't he looking at a budget of 200,000 for a property?
No. Absolutely. And that's what the realignment does. So what the realignment will do there is it will fall within that banner for someone who's then looking for that price point, and it'll attract them to it because they'll see it and then they know that the affordability is there and it could be the dream home for them. So it's about making sure that you're hitting that right pot of people.
Yeah. And as a result, then, even when the price is eventually lowered, when we talked about this and the negative reputation and everything like that, if you get this strategy wrong and you implement the realignment wrong, and you don't, the person that's doing it doesn't understand everything else that goes with it, like the joined up jigsaw. If they've only got one piece of the jigsaw, it's like let's talk about realigning the price, but they don't realise why they're realigning the price and what they should be saying to the potential buyer when the realignment price is coming through. Then if it's not done correctly, it could be a disaster for some people, and it could end up to actually the buyer actually trying to lowball the existing realigned price when it's been done.
Absolutely.
But the point and the point of realignment is actually to catch that person, as you said, Perrie, because they've got a bigger budget. Once you qualify them as a buyer, or once the estate agent qualifies them as a buyer, this is why it's important. This is one of the other pieces of the jigsaw realignment. Once your estate agent qualifies them as a buyer and then realizes their budget is more, that estate agent can then negotiate potentially to plant that seed into the mind of the buyer that potentially there's an expectation to pay just a bit more. There's another couple of things that you can do with that, but I'm not going to give that away live on this show. Because then that tells every other estate agent what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I've spent years and years and years of reading all the right books on negotiation and strategy that I am not prepared to give that information to other people. It potentially could end up being a competitor. Although, are they really a competitor? If you want someone else to win, this is a great thing I heard the other day. If you want someone else to win, how could they be your competitor if you're wanting them to win as well? Just a thought. It reminds me actually of the recent data, independent research about Denton House, the UK home that takes over 100 days to actually sell. More than 100 days between coming onto the market and agreeing the sale has just over a 1 in 2 chance of 56% of successful exchanging, in other words, concluding the missives and completing the sale. The remaining 44% of sales fall through, and that's taken into account. Remember, this is UK. This is taken into account in England. It is renowned, the English market, for falling through all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing to think about when we're talking about that realignment as well, and the fact that if you do that readjustment and then the buyer potentially is looking to pay even less, it's not necessarily even just the buyer, Jim, it's actually also the seller, because we've had situations in the past as well where perhaps the property is marketed, it's marketed at the right price point, a buyer will come along, they'll offer a price that the client originally said they were happy to accept, but maybe it's only been on for a couple of days, and then the client goes, well, hang on, it's early days, we'll wait. Then the wait.
I've seen this. Listen, I'll tell you, I've seen this happen, and I know what you're saying. It's the deal or no deal, isn't it? You open the box and the banker says, I'm going to give you £30,000, and they go, I've got some big reds on there. I could potentially get a lot more as a result of that. Therefore, I'm not going to deal. I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. That's another thing you've got to be aware of.
100%, because actually what often will happen in that situation, that potential buyer will go and find something somewhere else and buy a different property, and then your property sits for a little while, and then we start to be in the zone that we're talking about just now, which makes it really complicated for people. And that can be quite a challenge for some, and it's not something that necessarily is always recognised. So it is important to get the strategy right and make sure that your client understands that strategy as well, so that everyone works together then to achieve it, don't they?
Absolutely, I think that is the key, here, about everyone working in the same direction to get that strategy and get that price that you're after.
But in contrast to that, if a property does have a sale agreed in under 25 days, the chances of exchanging and completing rise to 19 out of 20, which is 94%, which is quite a significant jump.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
quite a significant jump. So I mean, that's a significant difference. If this isn't a clear sign that overvaluing is causing harm to homeowners, which creates a lot of wasted time, it creates stress, ultimately it creates disappointment for the homeowner, because the homeowner actually may have well seen something else and they lose out on their dream home. You know, whatever the reason, because there's always a circumstance why people are moving. So it is important to kind of recognise that and get the right strategy. So why do we think some Fife estate agents do overvalue then, Jim?
Well, I think probably we'll come back to saying many homeowners actually wonder why estate agents overvalue the property, if it ultimately harms the chances of a successful sale and the agent getting paid. I think the answer lies in the competitive nature of the industry, really. Like I said before, it's there is a when you're starting it for the first time, and obviously cash is king. And getting paid is king, and especially if you've got a 6-month delay for somebody starting out for the first time, or maybe getting new business on for the first time, or they've got low stock and they've not got enough stock to keep the overheads covered. There is a definite deliberate intention, possibly to overvalue to get that listing. Especially in a competitive nature and working larger estate agents as well. You've got a lot of agents there, and they're competing against even other agents in their own organisation. So there's an opportunity then for them to list as well, and actually come in with over prices. I mean, this pressure can lead to that overvaluing, as some agents even receive the commission for getting the property onto the market, not actually sold, just onto the market. So regardless of whether it sells, so this is why, and you'll know this, Perrie, anyway, and I'll discuss it. This is why I'm reluctant to do things like that, because then it does encourage an estate agent to take the attitude, just like, as long as I get the listing, I can get paid more money. By the way, they all get paid. We're not on that, like what everybody else does, is like you're on the basic minimum and everything else you've got to earn. No, we all get paid, but it's that additional. And then what I agree, and you know that anyway, Perrie, is once we finally sold the property for the client, then that's when we consider whether we can get anything else over and above that as a result of it. So that then takes away that incentive for a valuer then to just go out and overvalue every single time just to get a signature on a dotted line.
Absolutely. But what it also does as well, I think it creates a more harmonious atmosphere as well, which means that we all do work as a team for ourselves independently, internally, but also for our clients, which gives the client the ultimate result that they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And it's actually the homeowner to get the desired, the highest price possible offered, possibly. How, you know, definitely, I think when we go back to why do some agents overvalue and ask that question again to ourselves, Fife agents appeal to a home buyer's desire to get the highest price possible.
Yeah,
that's why. And if you've got somebody sitting in front of you, which you deem, because you've called them out to be professional, then you're going to want to believe them. Because if I walked in and said your house is worth $500,000, and someone else walked in and says your house is only worth 450,000, and another person walked in and says your house is only worth 450,000, if you can get a valuation at 500,000, why would you not take the risk for 50 grand? And that is what can sometimes happen, and it could eventually end up for no getting a sale at all. And what I usually say sometimes is it could end up ruining the listing if you go to another estate agent eventually, Because what happens is all the work's been done beforehand. Everybody that was a potential buyer in that market seen it already. So unless your next agent could present this in a different light, a completely different light, so you don't actually think it's the same property, then that's the only way everybody's going to be convinced as the existing buyers to actually go and take a look at this property. And I think that's why video walkthrough is so important, but also presenting the property maybe with location footage and also presenting the property with an aerial photograph. So people know where everything is in relation to where your property is, especially if it's a coastal location, or it's near possibly a golf course or something like that. But I think the talk-ups are the best thing. The talk-ups for me have to do every single time. It is definitely, I mean, if you're watching the television, stop watching the television now, and instead I'll give you the script and I'll just give you photographs of the cast to look at while you're reading the script, and you could just look at the photographs every time you come to them saying something, and then you can piece it out from there. But millions of people wouldn't do that anymore. They wouldn't watch the telly anymore because they're just reading a script. But that's how traditional estate agents is done. Just descriptions and photographs. Descriptions at best, to be honest, because some of them don't even have hardly any description at all. Yeah, this is a 4-bedroom house and here's the measurements. You want to come and see it? Really? Is that it? I need to work out if it's a good fit for me, because I'm really busy as a buyer and I can't afford to just go and look at every single property because I think it might be the right one for me. Also, if somebody has a partner, they go and do that for them, but they've not got enough information to make a decision. So even if the partner goes, it's really nice, you've got to go and see it, then there's double the effort to do the same thing. So that's why I think the closest thing possible to a viewing for which I represent for my sellers is actually taking somebody through on a video walkthrough, a personal property tour. And then that can qualify them to make them decide it's like, yeah, that does look like, in my mind, that does look like the property for me and the location for me. And I think that's the right thing to do. This overvaluing and the rest of it can delay and can cause the homeowner to miss out on their dream home, because if that doesn't sell, then they can't buy their next home. And that's we do see evidence of that just now. But that's as a result of I think, of the sellers not moving on from the boom period in their mind.
Absolutely.
And potentially sellers not moving on from that boom period in their mind is causing that problem.
I think sorry, just to kind of add to that as well, I think it's really important for sellers as well. And I know what you said there about the example of, if somebody's on an agent says 450 and another agent says 450, and then one says 500, why would you not take the chance? And that's great if somebody wants to do that. But the key thing there for me is that it's really important that seller, so that they do understand it and do have that expectation, challenge that agent to confirm, where did that number come? Show me how you've achieved that number. Because often I will go out and other agents won't present anything. And then I'll sit and they'll say, well, that's really thorough. That's really given me a good understanding of where it's come from, because that's not the price I was expecting.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I definitely challenge your estate agent. So then I come on to the question then, what is the importance of the correct pricing of your home in Fife?
I mean, I think what can you do to avoid falling into the overvaluing trap? The key is to ensure your Fife home is priced correctly, of course, from the outset. And we've got a few areas that we would cover and tips and why people can achieve that. Get multiple valuations. I think that's the top one. And it will cover really just that kind of the point I was making there, is don't rely on one Fife agent's opinion. Ask several agents to come around, get them to value your home, compare their suggestions. Be wary of agents who offer a significantly higher valuation than others, as I said, without solid evidence, to back that up. Because if they can't,
it really is the evidence. Now, and I'll tell you the example on this where you have to be wary. If you've got an agent which is not local to that area, and I'll give a classic example. I had an agent which was a Leaven-based agent, and that's all they did ever. But they went to East Nuke, and then they valued the house in the East Nuke area, and they valued it significantly lower than where I thought it would be. You're talking about 40 grand lower, because they didn't get it. They were still valuing on Leaven mentality, They didn't understand the area. They didn't understand the proposition. They just looked at it as an ex-local authority, 3-bedroom, semi-detached, and you get one of these and leave in for that amount of money. And that's literally what they put on it. And I feel sorry for the seller when it went to market, but they'll be convinced in their own mind that they got a good deal because it went to closing date. No surprise. But the problem with going to closing day is people just offer over the home report value what they can offer. So if the home report value is wrong in the first place, because kind of that's where it was, then because it was I'm sure, yeah, it was a surveyor. It wasn't familiar to East Nuke either. So they did that as well and just believed the estate agent and thought, yeah, we'll just put that on it then because that's what you think. And I genuinely think the person lost out by about 30 or 40 grand. 30 or 40,000 pound.
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Honestly, but that person will never know because they trusted the agent and they thought it was they got a closing date out of it, but it didn't transpire as to get anything more. I mean, a 3-bedroom ex-local authority and the answer of the area, and yet it ended up going for 220 or 1,000 or something like that. And yeah, I sold a 1-bedroom ex-local authority in Creole for 210. 1-bedroom ex-local authority apartment, just an upper flat in Creole, 210. The other agent, 3-bedroom ex-local authority semi-detached property in Anstruther, 220, 10 grand more.
Yeah, the numbers don't work
wrong straight away. Yeah, and
I think that's
that was
key.
the end result. That was the end result. And when you think about the end result, you think, God, that's flipping heck. I mean, you're almost borderline in that for leaving now.
Yeah.
So it's a crying shame. So you're right. It is asking where they got that information from. How did you get that higher valuation? Prove it to me.
Yeah, and I think trust is key in that process as well. So you want to be making sure that you're working with the agent that you can rely on and has been very transparent.
Here's my question to you: what can a seller do then to for their own homework to back up what they think? To just double check what the estate agent's saying to them about the valuation. What can a seller do?
Yeah, I think that's really important that you do that. I mean, if you think about it, the opening statement we made is this is their biggest asset. So you want to be putting the effort into it. So research comparable sales yourself. Look at similar properties that are in your area that have recently sold. You can go into sites like Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market. They allow you to search homes that are under offer or sold, subject to contract. And it gives you a better sense of realistic pricing as well. So it's not only about looking at pricing, a lot of it's about the finish as well. So, a fully refurbished property that's 3-bed semi to one that needs rework is not, there's no comparison in regards. You can't say they're like for like because they're not. So, do your homework. And I think be honest with yourself as well in regards to, well, what is your home? We all think our homes are wonderful, don't we? And that they'll sell tomorrow. But the reality is that's not how other people see them, isn't it?
I've had people that think their house is top dollar. And yet they'll take me around and they'll say, well, somebody's going to have to replace the kitchen and somebody's going to have to replace the bathroom. And I'm like, well, you've just admitted to yourself, but you still want what that person that's done the kitchen and bathroom on the price. That makes no sense. But that's their choice. It's like, no, your kitchen and your bathrooms needing replaced. So you would take that figure and you would take off a kitchen and a bathroom off that figure. And then that would give you the valuation roughly where you are right now. So it's just another way someone as a seller and someone as a buyer can accurately check that is the right sort of numbers they're talking about in terms of what they're asking for. Especially if you've got a private sale, especially if you've got a private sale, I would say. If you're a seller and you've got a private sale, you should be checking these comparables before you just agree with someone just because they're going to make it easy for you, because you could be leaving 10 and 20,000 pound on the table.
Absolutely.
Now, if I walked up to you and said, I'm going to take 10 or 20,000 pound out of your bank, you'd be on the police straight away. But as a private seller, you sometimes let that happen all the time.
Yeah, it can happen, and it's unfortunate, especially. So definitely do your own homework, and research is a big thing. I think understanding the market conditions is the other point. The property market is constantly changing. While prices may have skyrocketed in 2021, the market has since cooled off. We've seen that. But make sure your valuation reflects current conditions as well, and that the conditions are not the same as they were in 2021. Yes, there is a benefit to it in regards to home reports, etc., but it's not the same market that we're in. And your home report has actually benefited today from those price points. So you can't be saying, well, they got 10% over, so I'm still wanting 10% over, because actually that 10%'s already been added to your home report effectively in some areas, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, because it's all flowed through the statistics. Plus the fact, if your agent feeds back real-time information to your surveyor, they'll be able to tell the surveyor what's actually, how much their properties have actually gone for, even though it's not on the land registry yet. So it's a really good reflection as well. And I think that's why it's so important. What's the fourth thing that people need to think about of the correct pricing for their home? You know, what should you advise them to do?
Definitely work with a trustworthy agent. You know, choose an estate agent with a reputation for being honest and accurate in regards to their valuations.
Is that what they call an oxymoron? Is that
something like that?
Trustworthy and agent. I'm not really sure if that's the right word I'm looking for. Do we have the word trustworthy and estate agent in the same comment? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. Depends which ones you're talking about.
Trustworthy, estate agent. Oh, can these two go together? Is that possible? I'm not really sure about that.
I think they can. They definitely do.
Of course they can. I'm a background of American trained in the beginning, and in America, you know, an estate agent or a realtor, what they're called, are far more experienced and far more knowledge and expertise in their field. They also do conveyancing work as well as part of a realtor service. So they are deemed to be the fourth most respected profession in America. When you bring it back to the UK, estate agents are the fourth least respected in the UK. And I think that's a lot to do with the professionalism that they approach it, and also the knowledge and expertise they have to have. It's like what I said, really, my cat could sell a house. And literally, we should try that one day.
No.
Yeah, we should, just for experimentation purposes. We should get my cat. I should get my cat on. Welcome to the personal property tour and take my cat around with me.
Do you know what? It'll probably get the most screens ever.
Possibly. And I'll get the house sold. Yeah, my cat sold the house. There you go. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You notice that people have been doing that right now. I'm just saying this comment or the rest of it, and here's a lovely picture of my cat, just to get and people actually respond to that. It's the psychology of marketing. And that's probably the newest thing that people are actually beginning to learn. Here's a nice picture of my cat or my dog. So everybody likes it, and then it pushes it out to a bigger audience just because they're seeing the cat and the dog. And then everybody reads the opening statement, which has got nothing to do with the cat and the dog. But there's an explanation there in the statement itself at the end to say, this is just a lovely picture of my cat and my dog, and it's got nothing to do with what I'm asking. But it gets a huge amount of traction as a result of that. I don't think everybody's aware of that or anybody notices that, but I'd be interested to hear if anybody's seen that overall right now. So yeah, you probably are. You know, a trustworthy agent, a reputation, honest, and accurate evaluations is key. That's why when you said accurate evaluations, I think it's important to ask an estate agent, what have you achieved out of all your properties? How much have you achieved in percentage terms and also monetary terms to the home report value? So, for example, if I've got a Cooper estate agent or a East Nuke estate agent or a St Andrews estate agent or a Glenorthus or a Leven or whatever, and a Kirkcaldy estate agent or a Dunfermline, in that area, okay, out of the whole year, for example, so far for maybe 2024, out of the whole year, what was your average sale price on your home report? Because that will give you a good indication about what type of properties actually sell in that area. And how much did you achieve over, on, or under that average sale price for these properties? And what did that? How much did that come down to in monetary value as well? And a classic example, 2023. If I've got it, as if by magic, possibly I might have something. 2023 in the East Nuke area. I might have something here. If I dig through, talk amongst yourselves.
Well, there's cat just gone by.
Talk amongst yourselves. Here you go. So in here, you can see last year over 90% of our East Neuk properties sold for more than the asking price, which represents more than 11% over home report value on average in the East Neuk area. So 90% of our properties, and we got 11% on average over the home report value for all our properties sold in 2023 in the East Neuk area, which is KY 10 and KY 9.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's in Kirkcaldy, ask them about that for Kirkcaldy. If it's so I think that's key and fundamental to know. If you, it also tells you how well your estate agent's performing as well in the negotiation. But it also tells you what price point they sell on average, and is yours in that kind of price point as well to theirs. Don't give too much away when you're speaking to an estate agent. There's key, I know you're thinking, why would you say that? It's like, but me personally, that you could open up to them a bit. But there is key questions that they'll sometimes ask you, and you'll think to yourself, well, you should maybe know that anyway. And a really good one is when they're going to give you the valuation, immediately they say, have you had anybody else round? Absolutely. And what did they say? So you have done that.
Mm-hmm.
They probably don't know the valuation at that point in time, but they're trying to get you to verify around about what they should be saying by saying, what did all the other agents say? Now, I sometimes do that, and I get caught out with that sometimes, but I say, I've actually got it written down,
mm-hmm.
and I'll show you it once we're finished, but what did the other people say? And then they go down, 425, 365, whatever it is. And I go, well, there's what we had right there. Had it all written down anyway. So that's the reason, but that's a classic. But that's a classic way of an estate agent. It's not too sure about the area, not too sure about their valuation, then just saying, well, what does everybody else think? And then they go, yeah, it's kind of round about that. Without actually showing any evidence.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
One, eh?
And that's why it's important to challenge on that as a seller.
That's how you know if they're trustworthy or not. I still think that's a trustworthy estate agent. Not really sure if that goes in the same sentence.
We'll keep it like that.
I was an estate agent, eh?
We'll keep it like that for now.
Anyway, final thoughts. What's your final thoughts on this?
Oh, should we at the end already? My final thoughts.
Before I incriminate myself, let's get on with it.
Right, stop, Jim. I think for me, it's just remember the goal isn't just to sell your home. It's to sell it for the best price within the best time frame that works for you. To a serious buyer that's also motivated, because what you don't want is then for a buyer who's really not that motivated to be coming along, offering you something that you think is great and not being vetted properly. The estate agent hasn't understood where they're at, and then you get to just before missives have gone, they've given you a great price, they pull out, and then you're stuck as a seller. So I think make sure you understand all of those things and do it in the right way, and challenge. I think challenge would be my thing.
Challenge, yeah. Ask questions. Questions is a good thing, especially to somebody like me. If people ask questions and all the rest of it, that's great. I love that, because then it shows they're interested. It shows they're in buying mode. It shows they're ready, probably to go as a result of that. And it gets everything out rather than actually just leaving everything to assumption. Because when you see estate agents for the first time, you're all the same. And everybody goes, oh, we're always different. That typical cliche. And it's like, oh yeah, so what makes you different? A professional photographer. Okay, we do that. What else makes you different? Oh, we do floor plans. Okay, we do that. And it's like, wait a minute, every single estate agent does. It's like, that's not what separates you from anything. How could you say you're different? We caught somebody out there. It was actually Christian Byfield that actually caught somebody the other day saying that. An estate agent is new to the market, saying all these different, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. And they've got an X next to all the for the high street estate agent for the hybrid. And it's like, wait a minute, every single estate agent does that. You're misleading the public. Anyway, that's another story. Okay, my final thoughts on this, just to wrap up. Overvaluing, it might really seem tempting, especially if somebody says a higher figure than what you're expecting, because you kind of think it's in my pocket already before you've even started. But always remember, it's never over till the money is in the bank. That's what I got taught every single time in my manufacturing career as an accountant. It's not over till the money's in the bank. And that's the same with you as a seller. It's not over till the money's in the bank. That's it. And that will tell you how successful the property sale has been. But definitely, it might seem tempting to the overvaluing thing, but the risks far outweigh the potential rewards. Not only could it result in a longer sale time, but it also decreases the likelihood of successful completion when you do get that sale. But now, by pricing your home accurately from the start in this kind of current market, so if you're on right now and you've just joined in and you've just heard this now, if you're on the market right now and you're just hearing this now, by pricing your home accurately from the start in this market, you should be really considering, if you've been on for a longer period of time, about speaking to your estate agent and possibly realigning that number. And that'll increase your chances of getting a decent price and a smooth and still a profitable sale. Because remember, more than likely, if 50% of the people sell in, I think it's maybe even 10 years now, people 50% at 10 years before the sale. 10 years is a huge amount of increase in price. But it's all relative if you're moving in the same area, because the property you're actually buying is probably going up by the same price as well. Remember that. The key is to get the right home next. And we'll finish off there. Thank you so much for coming on, Perrie.
Thank you.
It's the goal really just to sell your home is to sell it for the best price. At the end of the day, best time frame, serious, motivated buyers, all the rest of it. And we'll finish off there. Thank you much for coming on. And for everybody else, if you've got any comments later on, please feel free to reach out and stick some in the comments or message us direct or contact us in the usual channels. Bye-bye for now. I'm sure you'll find us. We're kind of everywhere anyway.
Thanks,
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.